Okay, you said you
You
were.
there? Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, it was quiet for a minute. They're just getting the recording started. You said you were looking at memes. Did you find anything good?
Yeah. Do you want
Okay.
some?
What's that?
Do you want some?
Do I want some? Post up memes to the Discord server. Sure. Share anything you think is amusing. I like funny stuff. I like cats. I have too many cats. So, for those who are just joining us here, welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Uh, I am Benjamin, the Wizard of Your Dreams, and we are joined tonight by Munchable Delights. Say hello. Or don't say hello.
I said hi.
Oh, it didn't come through, I guess.
Oh,
I don't know
crap.
whether your audio's dropping out or. That's okay. We'll figure it out. This is all. I'm broadcasting out of my garage with a computer that I built like 15 years ago. So there's going to be technical difficulties, and I'm just going to live with it, and we're going to be okay. So you had a dream to share, and part of my process, first, I just listen. You tell it like it is from the first thing you remember after you fell asleep to the last thing you remember before you wake up, and I'm just going to listen.
Okay, so this is a reoccurring dream of mine. I've had it ever since I was 11 years old. I do not like it. It's pretty scary. The first, half of the dream is very weird. It's all, dark and, it's all night. And, basically, we hang a bunch of witches. It's kind of like the Salem witch trials. Long time ago, and there's still playgrounds. Like, everyone's playing on playgrounds, and it's all black. And my parents aren't there. They were never there. It's all just children. I also have noticed that my brother's still, a little kid, because he's the only other person in my family that's in the dream. For some reason, I honestly forgot why. I never, really am sure why I do this. We decide to, go for a swim. And, the moon's out. It's very pretty. It's a very pretty, lake that we go into. It's just very dark. There's nothing, you can't see anything under the water. And it's like the both of us just can't swim anymore, and we just start getting, sucked down into the bottom of the abyss. But, when we reach the bottom, it's like the universe shifted and we go back up to the surface again, only everything is red. There's a blood moon, the stars are red, everything's black. The lake is blood. And I have to basically carry my brother to shore, and we cough up blood because we were choking on it. And obviously it's not a lucid dream because we, for some reason, decided to go to a temple, a giant gray temple, on an island that we managed to wash up on. And there are demons in that temple, and they asked me to sacrifice my brother in order to go back home and to get power. And I do not want to do that, so I grab my brother and run, and we basically just go back into the ocean and swim to the bottom and come back up. And that's how the dream ends.
Okay, I'm still furiously scribbling here. Okay. Very nice. Very nice. That's fascinating. That now I remember actually seeing the synopsis that you'd posted before, and why it was so fascinating to me. It's all that's coming back to me now. So with those real life details, how do you think that influences the dream? What connections do you see before I start trying to make suggestions?
Biggest one is probably just the way I treated my brother, like he just always like, I don't want to say burden because I love him very much, but like he's always by my side and I always have to like take care of him.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think those are all very relevant things. I mean, it seems to me very intuitive that, as you said, this particular dream starts at the time your parents got a divorce and when you were taking on an additional burden of responsibility for caring for your brother. So it seems like that's a very good place to start, or at least the what is it, the path we want to follow towards finding other connected meaning. Does that make sense?
Also, I told my friend about it, and they also like said like that's probably what it meant too. So
Yeah, yeah. I try to be a little careful with here's what it means. I like to talk about things being connected, related, inspired, things being referenced. It makes sense that but then the fact that it's still reoccurring means some of that emotional content or that unresolved issue is ongoing. So there's something, it's not just like you had one dream once because that was your current circumstances. The dream itself seems to be coming back to tell you, to remind you of something, or to draw your attention back to the same feeling or the same dilemma. Does that make sense?
yeah,
Yeah. So it isn't just that one event, although that event is, or that those circumstances of 6 years ago are highly relevant. That's what I was saying in terms of that's the path we're going to start down, and then we're going to see where it branches out. So going back through my notes, this is where I take a drink of water. So I do remember asking you said you had a very specific event at a playground with your brother once. Is that something you feel comfortable talking about or describing?
nothing traumatic, nothing happened with my brother. We just kind of just all we did as kids, but we played outside, like in our backyard or on playground.
So a kind of a typical or regular recreational playtime activity with your brother at that age was playing on the playground in your backyard?
Yeah, actually, I got it.
Say
You are kind
again?
of right. Like there was like a point in playground where I was like super sad and
So you said there was a specific event you remember or a strong memory you have of being at a playground and feeling intense sadness?
yeah,
Was that related to your parents when you
yeah,
were okay? So you were kind of processing what was happening to them and how it would affect you, and you were all alone at a playground or with your brother?
um, I was with my brother. It was like just when they told us, and I kind of just went outside and went on my swing.
Okay, and that's the memory you have of going into your backyard, kind of in shock, and sitting on the swing.
Yeah, I don't even think I cried. Like I just like, well, it's my life now, and I kind
Yeah,
of just like I made sure my brother was okay because that's what I do.
yeah, that's a pretty normal response, actually. Some people think weeping, wailing, gnashing of teeth, large emotional displays are expected. What am I trying to say? Are the typical response, and actually it's highly personal, but also they're not. I mean, the idea of being in shock, kind of numb, like no response, just walking away to like, I need to sit down and think about this. That's actually pretty normal too. So that's a very common reaction to some devastating news. So that was and what was he doing? He was too young. You said he was like 3, and so he couldn't really. No, he's 3 years younger than you, so he was 8.
Yeah, he was 8.
Okay, and he didn't really understand what was going on, or what was his sense of what he had been told. Do you remember?
Differently, like he thought of it as all fun and games. Like I have like 2 Christmases now and stuff. He didn't think of the difficulty of what was going to happen.
He didn't really understand it. He thought,
yeah,
okay, but fair enough. And how well can you understand it and then look at the future and realize what it's going to be like without that experience, without the idea of without context. I mean, yeah, at 8 years old, you got no idea what's going on. So, so now thinking of the feeling of being in shock and sitting on that swing, how would you relate that to the experience of seeing those kids and the men, the tall, creepy guys in the playground? What do you think about that connection?
I think that has to do with my parents, to be honest.
Yeah. So your parents
I think
were
that has to
missing.
do with my school life.
Your school life?
Yeah.
You think the imagery of the playground and the kids and the creepy guys was more related to your school experience?
Yeah.
Okay. And you did say you felt bullied, so you had trouble making friends, or at least there were some people who were unkind and made you feel unwelcome.
I had ADHD and I also had acne, so
Yeah.
people that would approach me, they would kind of just lose their patience with me because I don't really pay attention.
Okay. How would you describe your social life at the time? I mean, did you have at least a couple of close friends, or did you feel pretty cut off and no one to turn to, no one to hang out with?
I had 2 friends.
Okay. Did you feel like that was sufficient? They met your emotional needs in terms of connection and socialization?
Yeah, I was fine. I wasn't like super depressed. If anything, like just like the comments of other kids made me depressed. It wasn't the lack of friends.
Okay, gotcha. That's what I wanted to try and figure out is were you completely isolated, or were you you got a couple of people and yeah, there's some jerks and but I mean it's a horrible experience. Not to downplay it. I got bullied as a kid too, but at least I also had friends, and the bullies were more just jerks that I had to deal with because they were there. We were all stuck in this place together, and they were not nice to me. I get that. I get that a lot. How would you relate that school experience I mean, you're the one that made the connection, so I'm sure it's valid. But what is the connection with the behavior of the children in the dream, and who or what do the creepy tall men in the trench coats represent? What do you think?
The kids, like they didn't treat me like okay, like they gossiped, but like when they actually talked to me, like they would treat me like I wasn't there.
So the idea of the kids in the dream behaving in that manner of kind of looking through you or just staring and smiling, that reminds you of the experience you had in school with people, the manner in which people were unkind or bullying. Was mostly ignoring you or treating you like you weren't there. Okay.
I honestly don't know where the get-ups come from though.
Yeah, that was the next thing I was going to look at. I mean, you did mention Salem witch trials, and there was witch burning or hangings. You said hangings. I wanted to focus in a little bit on that too, just from the idea of how that relates to your now that we know it's mostly school experience. You know, it's entirely possible. Do you recall whether they had started. I mean, I don't know if they would do it at 11. What's 11 years old? That's fifth, sixth grade. Do they start talking about the Salem witch trials then? I don't remember. It's been so long. When do you remember first learning about that?
Is really into it because, well, my aunts are, because they're witches.
Okay, so they kind of shared their knowledge of that subject with you because it was just part of their life. So you were aware of it maybe earlier. It wasn't something that was taught in school. Certainly, I wouldn't imagine when you were 11. Was it sixth grade? I don't think they get into that stuff yet. Yeah, I'm still thinking about that. That specific imagery, and I mean, but that makes sense because you felt what was it you said? Going back through my notes. Yeah, so I mean, just in general, I guess the idea of the kids being dressed in the 1600s clothing in a modern playground, just maybe a conflating of those things. I wonder why that specifically shows up. It seems like there's something there. I honestly don't know where to go with that. That is fascinating. Usually I just keep rambling until something coherent pops out, but this one I'm really having trouble wrapping my brain around the imagery, the cause for it. I mean, I know we connected it to the kids' behavior. We still haven't kind of established what the large, creepy-looking, trench-coated, top-hatted men are connected to. Usually every visual image is there for a reason. It may not be significant, it may not be mind-blowing, but it's connected to something. Do you have any experience of something like that in real life, of a person dressed that way, or of the behaviors meaning something? Do you know where I'm going with that?
I don't. Maybe like this is not like the kids like dressed up. More like the men, maybe with like pilgrims or something.
Okay, so the kind of top hat was more like a pilgrimish looking top hat.
Maybe
So,
that's
so
it.
they kind of fit with the clothing. Yeah, I'm just wondering why they're there. This is, and we may not get it. There may be nothing we can determine. It just seems. Usually, when I get a tickle, I like to follow it. I get a. There's something to that. Then again, it could have just been they're there because that image is disturbing and it provided motivation for getting the hell out of there. You're like, this is all wrong, and I just need to leave. Maybe that's the most important thing. It's very interesting though. They're making these repetitive, almost, yeah, it's robotic. Oh, go ahead.
Like, I don't know.
No, that's okay. I'm not asking you to fill in the gaps. If you get inspired, if something comes to mind, tell me. That's why I ramble and try and
I think the pilgrim people are like representative of my teachers.
I thought that too. I didn't want to put that idea in your head. Did you have the sense that your teachers were going through the motions and they were all the same and they were just things that they were doing were kind of useless in a sense? Just going. You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
You didn't have a lot of, you weren't inspired by them. You didn't look up to them as role models. They were just another feature of the environment you had to negotiate.
Yeah, I also remember having a particularly very tall male teacher. So.
Okay, so there was almost a kind of archetype for that, like someone from your real life. Did you get a sense of feeling disturbed by that person or put off or like that person was creepy in real life?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, there you go. That would probably be the connection of, so you're in this you're in a setting that makes you feel like you're back in school with the playground and the bullies and the useless, repetitive, creepy teacher things, and all of that is a place you wanted to leave. You're like, I don't want to be here. This doesn't feel right. What were you? What did you actually say about it? You had a sense. You didn't want your brother to worry, but you felt like it was not a good place for either one of you to be. That you should both leave. And so you told him something more pleasant like, hey, let's go somewhere else, and brought him with you.
I didn't like skip school, like I didn't like leave, but I faked being sick a lot.
Okay, so school in general wasn't a place that you enjoyed being, and you're like,
Yeah.
I would just rather stay home sick. I don't feel good. And you know, the funny thing is when kids say that, even if they're quote unquote faking, they don't have a physical illness, the illness is psychological. I don't want to go there. I don't want to do that thing. So they literally don't feel well. They don't feel good about going to school. So it's a funny thing to say. It's like faking. It's not exactly faking. It's just not exactly being sick. And it is also interesting that there's a vast darkness around this lit up area. Did you have a sense at that time, a few years back, that you couldn't really see beyond school? That it felt like that's all you could discern of the world, that like that's all that existed was the school experience, and you really couldn't imagine anything outside of it? That's not
Yeah,
making sense.
I didn't really
Go ahead.
get out that much.
You didn't get out much. That was when you left the house, you went to school, and then you came home.
Yeah.
But also you didn't have a very good vision of, say, the future. Like once school ends, what is beyond school? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
still kind of like that. Like, I don't know where I want to.
Because
Yeah.
you're still kind of finishing up high school. Okay, fair enough. And that's again a completely normal, common experience in terms of hell, if I knew what I wanted to do 25 years ago, So you are not alone. That's a human experience, and that may be one reason, one of many reasons the dream comes back is you're still in some ways stuck in that environment in your mind. You still haven't developed that ability to see beyond school. All you know is you want to grab your brother and run away from the things you don't like because you feel a desire to care for him. Even if it's a responsibility you feel burdensome, you're not going to leave him behind. That kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you bounce on out of there, you head to the sand, and suddenly in this sense, you have braved the darkness. You have pushed through the unknown. You ran. You didn't know where you were going. You couldn't see the road ahead, and you're like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to commit, and we're going to go. And where you ended up was actually somewhere better, much better. It was beautiful. It was a forest. You loved the forest and the trees and the water and the beautiful stars and the moon. So that speaks to me of a kind of hopefulness that if you take some kind of determined action, you will be able to reach a better place. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
When you think about that, what comes to mind?
What was that?
I'm sorry. When you think of that, what comes to mind?
My parents, like, they always kind of, like, they did not like the fact that I was bullied, but they always kept telling me it gets better, it gets better, it gets better in high school, it gets better in college.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I kind of believe that. So,
You did believe it at the time?
I still kind of do, but, like, I'm just not as optimistic.
Okay, you're a little more a little less blind faith, a little more realism.
Yeah.
A little more. You realize that some of the shitty things in life never go away because sometimes life's just shitty. But would you say, just in general, and again, if I'm prying too much, this isn't dream, this is like real life stuff. But you say you still have a pretty optimistic outlook on the future, that you are still looking forward to new experiences and moving on past unpleasant stuff, leaving that behind.
Yeah, I'm still pretty optimistic, but I not nowhere near as optimistic I used to be.
Okay, it's been a little tempered. Do you feel more confident in your own abilities now?
Yeah, I do not let crap bother me anymore. So,
Okay, you feel like you've toughened up a little bit.
yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Um, so you got to the water's edge and you felt you described it as like a childlike excitement. Because you love water and you're like, I get to go for a swim. This is a lot better than being on that crappy playground with those people. Um, and at that moment, you actually you knew your brother was safe, and you didn't really care whether he was there to swim or whether he was gonna whatever he was gonna do. As long as he was safe, you were there. You were gonna turn the focus back onto yourself and say, I'm gonna do this for me. I'm gonna go swimming because that's what I want. Yeah.
And then I felt guilty because I almost got him killed for it.
Well, that came later. Yeah. So, but that came as a result of. But I mean, that's also very important too. Is, I mean, do you have that sense of failing, the fear of failing your brother in real life? What am I trying to say? The idea that you would take your focus off of concern for him or caretaking him, do something just for you, and that ultimately you would end up regretting it because something bad happens to him or he isn't as well cared for as he could have been. Does that make sense?
Still feel like that. He's 14.
You still feel like that even though he's 14?
Yeah.
You still feel a pretty strong sense of responsibility for him, and do you get the sense he kind of looks up to you, even if he's like not resentful, but come on, quit treating me like a kid. I'm 14 now. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, kind of like that.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, the fact that this is an ongoing burden, an ongoing concern, is something you feel you know, from when you were 11 till now, still 6 years later, feeling this sense of responsibility has not gone away. The idea that the dream would come back to remind you that you're still struggling with. What am I trying to say? I'm always at a loss for words. Struggling with making a decision. That's not the right way to put it. Struggling with how you feel about it. Struggling with being indecisive. The idea of you want. Does it sometimes feel like your life is not your own?
Kind of.
Can you say a little about that?
I get like forced situations I do not want to be in.
You have the experience that sometimes you're forced to be in situations that you don't want to be in?
Yeah.
Without prying too much, is it okay to ask for an example of what that might be like?
Going to band.
Being in the school band?
Yeah.
Did you have a passion for music, or was that something you were encouraged to take up and you just kind of stuck with it, and now you're really stuck with it?
Yeah, I was able to quit, but I had to deal with like 3 years of it.
Okay, so you felt like for 3 years, and going, what was it that made you feel stuck in it? Were you had parents tell, or your mother or your father telling you you have to do this, or you felt obligated? You felt, what is it?
Obligated.
You felt obligated, like to the band itself, to the experience, to showing up to do what you had to do?
I felt obligated to like I had to do as much class as possible. If you do marching band, then you don't have to do gym, so I can do more classes.
Okay, interesting. So it was almost a calculated choice. So it was a choice. It was something you said, I'm going to do this because of strategic reasons, but still it was unpleasant to endure, even if it was voluntary.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Interesting. Um, so back to the actual dream imagery. Usually you're a very good swimmer, you say, in real life.
What was that?
Oh, you're a good swimmer in real life?
I'm a good swimmer, yeah.
Okay, you enjoy it, so it's something you're skilled at, and you're maybe not Olympic level, but you can float and you enjoy it, and you can move through the water pretty easily. Um, so the idea that you would suddenly be pulled down. You mentioned having a real life fear of not being able to see the bottom. Did you experience that fear in the dream as you were swimming out?
Yes, but like it was kind of like a rush to me.
Like you were flirting with danger,
Hmm.
taking a chance? Okay. And that seems to be connected to the feeling on the shoreline of I'm going to do this for me. I'm going to do this because I want to, because I'm going to enjoy it, and he can come with me, but this isn't about him. And the idea of it being dangerous to brave this big open expanse of water that you couldn't see the bottom of, and that's normally scary enough to keep you on the shore. And that, I think that might be related to then we might say kind of a catastrophic result of, oh no, this was a terrible mistake, now we're being pulled under. But what do you think about that?
Sometimes I make stupid decisions. Like I think it's
Okay.
gonna be fun, and then I just like it really messes up.
You've had some experiences where what am I trying to say? In looking for a good time, you got in over your head and it
Yeah,
turned out to be a bad time.
yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, no, that again, a very common human experience, a very common experience of being a young person and experimenting in the world. You don't really know what's going to happen. Sometimes it seemed like a good idea at the time, and it turned out it was not a good idea ever. I know that experience very well. Um, so that's almost pretty straightforward in terms of what that would mean. But then to have that horrifying moment when you realized I am literally in over my head. I'm being dragged under, uh, and I took my brother with me, and he's going to die. And that was kind of horrifying to you.
Yeah.
How did you describe it exactly? That you described him seeing that I'm about to die look, and that you couldn't save him. That you'd made a fatal kind of final mistake that you couldn't take back.
Almost like again, I don't know if you ever had near that experience or like felt like you were having it, but like the things you think about like when you were thinking about the die, like it's very almost kind of funny, but also really sad.
Hmm. There's got to be a
Like,
word for
oh,
that.
I
I'm sure
guess
there's
they're
a
not
word
going
for
to be
that.
paying for Austin's college now.
Yes, this is true. This is very true. and you felt a kind of despair, is one way you described it. The idea that actually nothing else mattered. All that fun you thought you were going to have, now that you realized it was all going to shit. Nothing
Yeah, I'm
mattered.
thinking of
But
all the things like he can't do now. Like I'm thinking of like, oh, he can never get married. He can never go to college. He can never even go to high school or middle school.
that was the feeling that his future had been robbed, or was being stolen from him as a result of your mistake.
Yeah.
That's heavy, man. That's a lot for an 11-year-old to be feeling in her dreams. Uh, that is the crushing. That is the literally being. I mean, this imagery is fantastic. The idea of the body of water, you can't see the bottom, the force pulling you down, the overwhelming nature of the fear that you would make a catastrophic error that could not be fixed. Is that making sense to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that seems like a fairly, what am I trying to say? A fairly strong path for meaning of that particular element of the dream. Um, and but it doesn't stop there. It isn't like you go down and you wake up. You actually break on through to the other side, which is interesting. So you've made what initially appeared to be a impulsive, perhaps self-serving mistake that almost certainly was going to have dire consequences, but instead you decide to stop fighting the pull and swim with it, and you broke through to somewhere else. Given what we've been talking about the last couple of minutes, what do you make of that turn in the dream?
Kind of interpreted it as what Austin's future would. I messed up, kind of thing.
I think we had just a brief audio glitch. Can you say the last few words one more time?
I kind of just interpreted it as his future, okay, so the drowning was me like realizing my mistake, and then the blood, the redness, the dark universe was Austin's future. Then, I don't know.
Maybe, and there might be something there. Definitely, your intuitive sense of what it means is of a piece of the puzzle is the way I want to put it, and it may not be. What am I trying to say? It may not be it may be a piece we have a hard time fitting in necessarily. What am I trying to say? I'm not trying to tell you you're wrong. I'm saying that's something significant, and I don't know what to do with it. And I'm trying to see.
It could just be like how I see the world.
It could be. It could say a little bit about that. What? How does that relate?
It's a very dark and unforgiving place.
Mm-hmm. It was a famous poem. I can't remember the guy or a quote. He said, "Life is nasty, brutish, and short." I don't know if you ever came across that.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, this was a guy I think writing in the 17 or 1800s, and when people didn't live that long, and it was hard living. But a lot of people hang on to that because, yeah, sometimes life feels like that. It's doesn't go on for very long, and perhaps that's a saving grace because it can be very unpleasant. One would hope not you, but anyone would have a better experience of living, a desire to have an anticipation of more good times than bad is what I'm trying to say. Is that something you experience? Do you anticipate things are generally going to be better than worse?
I try to, but it doesn't always Yeah, I'm pretty pessimistic sometimes.
Fair enough. And, that's just real for you right now. That's just where you're at. That's not a criticism on my part. Sometimes you'll get people who say, you should cheer up. You should just think positive. And it's like, I'm thinking what I think because I'm seeing what I see. And if you're being honest with yourself, if what you see is bleak, you want to just be real and say, that's what I see. You just call it like you see it. So I wouldn't want you to feel bad about, what am I trying to say? It's not like there's something wrong with you because you see the world that way. That's just what you see right now. Hopefully, I would wish for you that you would see other things, that you would have the opportunity to see other things. But it's okay to be in that place for now. It's as long as you know that's not a place you're going to be forever. Does that make sense? Even if you don't believe, you won't be there forever. Did I lose you?
I can't hear you. You talking?
Oh no! What's the last thing you heard me say? It happened again. Like the audio dropped out.
Pessimism.
Yeah, I guess I was just in my own roundabout way trying to say there is a light at the end of the tunnel, even if you can't see it yet. I've been there. I've seen the light, and you just got to keep walking down the tunnel, and I believe you will see it too. But it's okay if you don't see it right now. That's just where you're at in the tunnel. Does that analogy make sense? Did I lose you again?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Does the analogy make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I don't know if we keep losing each other on the audio. But yeah, we were trying to get to breaking through to the other world. Maybe what you were trying to say is something that it felt like it was connected to your making a mistake because you had now arrived at the place of consequence, the place where you had to suffer the consequence for making the mistake. Am I onto something there?
Do you think like all like the blood symbolizes anything?
Possibly. I mean, it's there. Typically, everything is there for a reason. We may not always be able to discern that. I mean, blood. What do you think of when you think of blood? What are some associations with that?
I'm afraid of blood.
Afraid in what way?
Like I will actually faint.
So you get lightheaded and possibly pass out when you see
Yeah.
blood? A little blood or like a lot of blood? How much does it take to trigger that for you?
Nosebleed them out.
Okay. And is it, do you get like a nauseous, queasy, sick to your stomach, visceral feeling when you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so the idea that you would be swimming in blood and swallowing it and have to cough it up, that would... How long have you had that reaction to blood? All the way back to 11?
Ever since I was a little kid.
Ever since you were little? Okay. That could be related as well. I still think we haven't quite nailed down why you would choose to go with the flow, with the pull. You're being pulled down. You think you're drowning. You think your brother's going to die, and you're like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to lean in to the choice, or to the pull. It wasn't a choice. It was a choice to swim. It was not your choice to be pulled down. But something about yielding, giving in to the pull, going with that direction. When I focus down a little, throw some more words at you about that. Do you have any thoughts?
Giving up.
It kind of felt like giving up. It's like, this is happening. I better just go with it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then giving up and going with it, not fighting the direction of travel, not trying to fight the current or the force, whatever it was. You ended up in this other place where everything was blood. One island, blood ocean, a giant medieval-looking castle, cathedral, temple type of place. I don't know what to make of that imagery. Do you have any associations with islands, with large religious or medieval castle-looking structures? What kind of comes to mind when you think about those things?
I'm Catholic.
You are Catholic, so that imagery is actually part of your upbringing?
Yeah.
You've been to the big buildings and you've seen probably many images of them?
Mm-hmm.
So that is, I forgot you did mention that. I'm not sure what to make of that. I mean, it's definitely relevant to you. And so you're still, you were at 11 like Catholic, and you are still today a practicing Catholic?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What does your religious faith mean to you? Is it something you just go through the motions because why not? Or is it a source of strength? Is it another thing you got to squeeze into a busy day? How do you feel about it?
I have a very, I love God very much, but, I have, my problem with sin and my problem with myself, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also, one of my friends said that, the blood kind of represents, being tainted and stuff.
Could be, sure.
And I was like, that makes a lot of sense because I'm LGBT.
Oh, okay, yeah. And that doesn't quite jive with the Catholic dogma, exactly. They would discourage that perhaps, or encourage a different path, different choices, right?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, definitely the idea that you're in an ocean of blood when it turns your stomach, when it's kind of a, what is it? It's a representation of something viscerally disgusting to you, something that generates a revulsion to the point of lightheaded and passing out. And here you are swimming in it. The connection to sinfulness is, I mean, if that makes sense to you, sure, but it's not necessarily the only answer. But that may be a good way to express what the answer is. I mean, when you think about the idea of swimming in an ocean of blood being covered in not just covered in, because you could be standing and doused in something and be covered in it, but there's something bigger than that. It's immersed in an ocean of sin. Does that resonate with that imagery from the dream? And how do you relate that maybe to how you were feeling at 11 years old? Did you have a strong concept of sin?
That was when I first developed a crush on a girl.
Okay. So you had a lot of things happening in your life. I mean, you were kind of awakening to romantic feelings and going through your parents' divorce and taking care of your brother. That's all adding up to why this dream would have such intense imagery. Okay. When you think about that first crush, do you relate it to any specific element of the dream?
Really? She hated homosexuals. I'll play that one. But I don't really can't.
So it was an unrequited love.
Yeah.
She was not going to return those feelings. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that might and you had that crush before or after this dream happened?
Yeah, I did.
Well, which one was it, before or after?
I had crush before I knew that she did, not like homosexuals.
Oh, well, no, I meant, did you have the crush before you experienced the dream? The dream we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that might have definitely factored into it. It certainly adds another layer to. I mean, if we go with the sin angle, that the blood an ocean represents an ocean of sin, and you were diving into it, perhaps, or swimming towards it, going with that pull. That in relation to your responsibility to your brother, that doing that just for you might have consequences for him.
The way I see it, like I want to take care of him, but I also wanted to be myself.
Well, you do, and that, I mean, that may be a significant part of what this dream is not telling you. It's not telling you, but it's focusing your attention in on the specific dilemma, the point of tension between your responsibility to family and your religious upbringing, your faith in general, and your desire to express yourself in the most genuine, honest, full way possible. This is really what I feel and what I think. This is what I want, and feeling that tension between those two desires. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So certainly, and then it's also very interesting that you approach this giant fortress temple that calls to mind your Catholic exterior of a great Catholic church, perhaps. But inside, it's your home. You're once you get inside this temple, this structure, you are at home in a sense of feeling. Things are familiar. You recognize your mom's style. You recognize family photos. That's what do you think about that idea that walking inside of what looks like a giant church is actually your home?
That's kind of how I feel about church.
It feels like home when you go to church.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I was angling towards. I didn't know if you had any different impressions of it. I think there's something more there. What is it about going to church that feels like home? How would you describe that a little bit?
Or just the people there, and like I don't know, it feels safe.
Safe. You feel welcome by the people there, like they're happy to see you, they want you there.
Yeah, but it's not perfect.
It's not perfect. Yeah, which may be why you then also had an impression of these otherworldly creatures coming through the walls or out of the kitchen. I think there might be something specific to the location they came from, but it might not be relevant. Why did the woman come down the stairs? Why did the man come through the wall? And why did the demons come out of the kitchen? I don't know. I'm not sure that's relevant, but more to focus on that once you got in there, you weren't alone. I mean, not only were you not alone because your brother's with you, but you didn't bring your brother into an empty place. There were people there, but those people you didn't feel a sense of threat. You felt welcome, but you also felt like they were offering you something that you didn't want. Even though it should have been tempting, like they expected you to accept. They expected you to want it. They expected you to be someone who would look at their offer as appealing, and it wasn't. It turns out that's not who you are. What do you, when you think about that, what comes to mind?
Not much actually. To be
Okay.
honest.
I might have been rattling another doorknob that didn't come open.
It might. It's. Not, I don't think it's more to do with my church, and more. I think it's more to do with my brother.
No, for sure. And I'm not trying to force the church in there. It's an interesting we may have gone as far as we can with that specific imagery. Why was it a church, and why did it look like your house on the inside? You feel like church is home. It feels like home to you, and that's fine. But then maybe it's more related to your experience of being actually at home. Because you can walk into a church and it can feel like home because it looks like home, but then you realize it actually is your house and it's not a church at all, and that's a different feeling. Do you have, when you think of being at home, like in your actual house, living your daily life, is that a comfortable place for you?
It is.
Okay, in general it is. Yeah, I'm wondering, that's why I'm trying to focus down a little bit on the idea of why those people, those demons, or the succubus, the butler, why the offer, and why did they expect you to want it? Is there something in your mind that does have kind of not repressed exactly, but what am I trying to say? There's a concept of, you feel like you shouldn't want something, but you do, and actually you want to take them up on the offer, but you realize it's not a good idea, so you bounce. Is that making sense?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that, dude? How would you describe what that means to you?
Again, Austin's a burden. If I love him, but if I stop focusing on him, I'd probably be a lot better.
So it's almost as if the creatures in that space inside your home, that's inside a church, that's on an island surrounded by an ocean of blood, they did sense in you this desire, and they were tempting you in a way. They were offering to fulfill it. They're saying, you just have to do it. You just have to want it, and it'll happen. Does that make sense?
But deep down, I don't want it.
And you ran away. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's that tension again. It's like those elements. It's almost like your mind is writing a script based on real things, but using actors. So what they were there to do, in a sense, was to remind you this is real. This is something you want, and your choice in the dream was to reject it and say, I'm gonna go back the way I came. We're gonna go back through the ocean of blood. We're gonna swim out. We're gonna get back to the happy forest moonlight setting. We're going to. So I'm thinking it's kind of the picture of what it is kind of coming to me, is that you still have this. You're still struggling, and I probably said this 7 times now, but you're still struggling with this tension between taking care of your brother and taking care of yourself. And those are both real important things to you. You don't want to forget about you, and you don't want to let him down. And there is a tension there, and you're kind of walking that tightrope and trying to make sure you don't fall off either side. So the idea of this dream being you give in to the desire to go for a swim, to immerse yourself in your own, doing something just for yourself. And that pulls you down into this place where you realize you could commit completely and be rid of this burden forever. But that other part of you that says, that's not really what I want, decides to leave, decides to jump back in the water, take your brother with you, and go back to the shoreline and undo. It's almost like not a wish fulfillment dream, but a reminding you the desire is there. And what am I trying to say? Flirting with danger was a bit of it, but flirting with the idea of, what if I gave in? What if I gave in to that desire and realizing, no, it's not really what I want. I don't know. What do you think about that? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it makes a lot of sense, actually.
Okay. And the idea that it comes back occasionally. So with recurring dreams, why the same dream? There's two different answers to that. One is, especially with an a dream of significant intensity that you remember and has an impact. You feel it and you remember it after waking up, and it doesn't go away. Those images and that sequence of events are now literally physically in your head forever. I don't know if you know much about brain chemistry and development, neuronal pathways. Once it's basically you've created a memory of the dream, and the memory of the dream exists as if it were a memory of doing something in real life. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's okay. Good. So basically, the idea is a memory is a memory is a memory, and memory's faulty, and memories change over time. But so the idea of the same specific pattern of events and dream imagery recurring, it's going back to a pattern your brain's familiar with, and it's pulling that up again to represent the idea that anytime that, what am I trying to say? The dilemma, anytime that dilemma is brought back more intensely into your mind, anytime you feel that urge to pull away, to put down the responsibility, to just live for you and say fuck it all, it's likely that dream's going to come back and say, are you sure? You could do that. You can. The opportunity's right there. All you got to do is say, I agree. Do the sacrifice, and you can have the power, and you can have the wish fulfillment. All the vistas open up, and you'll be in a sense, your life will be better in some ways, but it comes at a cost. So now I want to go back just for a moment to what I was saying earlier. The idea that I had asked whether you remembered specific times that this dream would occur, and initially I was asking about patterns, but now that you think of it as bringing your mind to focus on that tension between responsibility and freedom, living for yourself or living to take care of someone else, do you see maybe a trend in feeling what am I trying to say? Increases in that feeling of burdensome responsibility that then would very soon after result in a dream?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll think about it, yeah.
Well, I think we've got a pretty good, I don't want to say the answer. I never want to say we've figured it all out, but I think we've got something pretty important. Do you feel that way?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, you could tell me, nah, this has all been a waste of time, and I didn't learn anything, and whatever. I mean, we gave it a shot. I'm not going to be critical of that. I'm not going to pressure anyone to tell me how good I am at dream interpretation. It's all about you. It's all about how you feel about it. If you genuinely believe this was useful, and that the answers or not answers, the ideas we generated are useful or beneficial or important, then it is. And I would always just want people to be honest about that.
So it was like an overview of like what you think it's about.
Kind of a final thoughts, a summation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think this is. I mean, it feels to me My impression of it is that you've got this ongoing burden, a situation that feels burdensome, because it is. I mean, you're carrying a burden. You're carrying this feeling of responsibility for your brother in light of everything that's gone in the past, and you want to put it down, and you realize you can, but that comes at a price. That comes with consequences. My guess would be that you, as you get older, and specifically as your brother gets older, you will both become more competent in the world. Like, he will be able to demonstrate to you that he can take care of himself. And my guess would be that this dream comes back less often in the future as he gets older. But
Probably.
yeah, but my guess would also be that if there's ever a time when he's in trouble and you feel like you should be doing something to help him, or you're worried about him in general, he starts college, he starts a new job, he's moving to a new town, that might spark the dream coming back. And it's going to remind you, you don't have to worry, but, you know, that might have consequences. And it's almost like it's an unavoidable circumstance. The only way to cure it would be to say, stop caring. And I don't think that's something you can do. To actually stop caring about your brother, right?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, exactly. And I wouldn't encourage you to. I'm not saying, you need to take care of yourself and put that burden down. I mean, honestly, a lot of times our burdens are our reason for living. Imagine being useless. Imagine having no one that depended on you. That's actually one of the worst, loneliest, most terrifying things for a human being to feel, is just completely that their entire existence is useless. So one thing you probably want to think of is don't put too much into the identity of being your brother's keeper. Does that make sense?
Can you say that again? You're kind of like glitching.
Oh, sorry. One word of caution I would have for you is don't invest too much energy into creating your personal sense of identity as being someone who cares. I am the person who cares for my brother. I am the person who takes care of my brother. You don't want that to be your only central characteristic. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That can't be your entire reason for living. It can be important, and it can be something you take seriously, and it can be a burden you don't want to put down. But that can't be your entire reason for living, or you get out of whack. You get out of balance. You want to diversify. I love the analogy that a stool is the least number of legs you can have for something to be stable and stand up on its own. But a chair with 4 legs is better, and a table with 10 legs is even more stable. The more supports you have for the surface, the more stability. Does that analogy kind of make sense?
Yeah.
So this is my advice to everyone, not just because you're young, but definitely branch out into multiple areas of things that make you feel good. Areas of interest, but most specifically areas of purpose, areas of competence. If you don't do martial arts, I recommend it. I recommend it for everybody. Just the idea of the physical discipline, the training, the exercise, and the idea that you get far enough down the road in that, and you're like, I can do some serious shit. I'm in better health and shape than I ever was. That sense of self-confidence is always really good. So I don't know. That may not be your cup of tea. Not everybody likes sporty stuff. So anyway, but that idea of diversifying your interests, your areas of, develop multiple aspects of your personality, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think the more you do that as well, the less you'll have this dream come back. Because it sounds like, why am I telling you how to have this dream less often, or reassuring you that it'll fade away or become less frequent, is because it seems like a very troubling experience. Like, you don't enjoy it, and
I actually have a lot of really creepy dreams. I could probably tell you.
I believe you. You've been through some rough stuff. I mean, I would like it if many things you've been through nobody ever had to experience, but it's actually pretty common. Like traumatic events is one thing humankind is universal across. It's one thing we all have in common. So we've all been through some shit. That is the human condition. I had a point to that.
Yeah, let me think. Like I have like a couple of. I don't remember all my dreams, but I do have a dream journal. Let me find an entry.
You got another one to share with us?
It's a small one. Like I don't really remember this one that much.
Sure.
Like,
I do have to wrap it up. It's getting late in my neck of the woods. I need to go to bed, but I want to hear it, and that's probably a good way for us to round it out. We'll get maybe a teaser for a future dream, or at least some strange scenery to see us out the door. So yeah, go ahead.
Scary dream. So I had basically like a type of insect that would take over your body and eat it from the inside out.
Shit.
And then they replace your body like slowly with household objects.
Wow. That one's.
And they would like take over your body and make it move around so they could affect other people.
Wow. That's another good one. You know what I'd like to do at some point in the future? I've already had some previous guests contact me again and say, hey, I've had more dreams. I'm like, I want to do that. I want to have people back. But for right now, I'm trying to keep it fresh, different people, different interview experiences, and give it a little, what is it called? Let the audience anticipate people coming back if that's going to happen. Maybe someday, maybe, we'll have a part 2.
Okay.
So, well, I hope this was a good experience for you. I hope you felt it was meaningful, with time well spent.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go to bed now.
Yeah, me too. It is that time. I'm just going to thank our audience for listening to another episode of Dreamscapes. And good night.
Bye.